They deserve to make no money. None. And that's the stream. I hate them. They should make no money. Thank you for your time. Basically, this whole thing is happening because there was a thread I saw because Hungrybox like posted his payout from Pound, which was like $800 for getting second at Pound, which is like a major. He obviously feels that $800 is low. And I think generally when you would think of an esport like as big as Super Smash Brothers, you would probably agree that $800 is a pretty low payout. And then there was kind of a follow-up thread that Knuckles, who's like an EUTO, replied basically saying that like $10 more, charging people a $20 fee instead of like a $10 fee. Although I think Pound technically charged a $15 bracket fee anyway. Basically, Knuckles was saying that could deter attendees, and it kind of started this like similar cycle of conversation that's been had many times before. Doubling the prize pool doesn't really like solve anything, and I don't think doubling the prize pool actually even changes anything about HBox's tweet. If HBox made the same tweet and it was like $1,600, I think he could garner like the same reaction and same sentiment. And I think that's important to keep in mind is when he's talking about doubling the pool, like this doesn't actually solve, it doesn't even change much of the context around his tweet, let alone solve the problem in this space. And again, because I think people are going to come around to this as like, well, we shouldn't do the good thing at all. It's like, no, I've said a number of times that it's good to do that. It's still fine if you want to increase entry fees at majors because it still does help people to some extent. $100 is nicer than $50. I'm not going to pretend that it's not, but you need to keep in mind that the $100 doesn't really solve the problem for that player. So prize pools are low in Smash compared to other T1 and T2 esports. Like when you look at our like amount of viewership, amount of attendees, Smash, Ultimate, and Melee are pretty big games when you compare them to like other big esports. They're not tier 1 esports, but I think we're like pretty firmly in like the tier 2 area in terms of viewership, players. Smash gets a particularly crazy amount of in-person attendance, which other games are just like not capable of getting. Basically, being able to pull people out in person is something very unique to Smash and something that makes it special. So prize pools are low in Smash compared to these other games that are sort of in the similar realm as them. So why is that the case? So there's the two obvious cornerstones of this, right? One, we have way lower sponsorship revenue than these other games. We don't do a lot of like sponsorship sales compared to a game like, say, League of Legends or Counter-Strike. These games like have sales teams at companies that sell on the events and bring in a ton of revenue. Like when you see like a Mercedes sponsorship, that company is paying a bunch of money to support that event in exchange for like an advertisement, right? Smash has historically been really bad at this. That's why Papa John's is such a big deal, because that deal is so big, especially for our community. There's never been a deal like that for the Smash community before. Historically, these events have gotten almost no sponsorship money, and the few sponsors that are willing to work with Smash events pay really low because they know they can get away with it, or Smash TOs like do not have the tools to like negotiate properly. You need capital up front to pay a good salesperson a lot of money to sell on your event. Even for BTS, a company with a sales department, it took like years to get to a point where they could like have deals of that scale, right? BTS is the closest thing to like a huge sales team, and it's not big, that the Smash community has. And then the other reason is a lack of developer support. So for a game like League of Legends, where Riot steps in, right? Riot is putting the money up to support the prizing in their game, in like Valorant or League. Esports is like kind of like a marketing expense, right? Esports around your game is like a way of sustaining and growing and like marketing the game and having people buy skins and things like that, right? So they have motivation to support and put money into the scene. Unlike us, obviously Nintendo has not given us a lot of money over the years. They haven't supported prize pools. For whatever reason, I'm not going to dig into like why Nintendo doesn't support shit. I'm just saying Nintendo doesn't give us money, right? So there is no dev money to support us. I'm not saying we want it. I'm not saying it would be good to have it. I'm not speculating as to why we don't have it. I'm just saying it's not there. So why do people want higher prize pools at all? Well, it supports our players, right? We want people to be able to play the game and earn money playing it. That's like a cool thing. It makes it more viable for people to continue competing. If I'm investing a lot of time in Melee, this like hobby, and I get good enough, I want to be rewarded for it, because eventually I have to cave. I have to go get a job and like grow with the rest of my life and maybe give up playing Smash that much. But if I can get paid for it, I can continue playing Smash and working on it, right? And then it's also like a hype marketable thing, right? $1 million tournament is like a very cool headline and marketable Bowl, something that somebody would want to get involved with. That's going to attract a lot of attention. Then all of a sudden more money comes in through sponsors and other people that want to partner with that event. So what is this like ecosystem, or like what do prize pools look like for other games? I just thought we'd start off with like normal sports. Prize pools pretty much don't matter, right? Like when you talk about like the NBA finals or you talk about the Super Bowl, not a lot of people are talking about the prizing of like what the team wins. It's more about like the pride, the notoriety. Well, like, why is that the case? It's because all of those guys are getting paid like massive salaries, are supported by like a team. If you're good enough, like, and famous enough as an individual, you have brand deals for yourself. Like, you have so many other paths of income and that make it possible for you to pursue your passion or your desire to play that game. You're not worried about like money in the Super Bowl final. You care about winning the Super Bowl final because you fucking care about playing football. It's not about the prize money at that level. And that's kind of the position you want to be in, right? And then as far as esports go, we could just take a quick look. Let's start with Dota, because Dota's the only game where it does matter. Dota is like the exception to the rule where the prize pool is so fucking big, it's all you care about. The game isn't big enough anymore to like stream as an individual and become like this like talent superstar influencer anymore, right? Like not a lot of people are passively watching individual Dota streams. And honestly, the team investment, as far as I know, like is relatively low to other games because all of the focus around Dota, right, is winning TI. For those of you who don't know, the TI prize pool is now over $40 million. If you win TI, you as 1/5 of the Dota team get paid like fucking like $4 million now. It's insane. $4 million as the individual of 5 on the team. Dude, if you get last place in TI, you still make a shit ton of money. So your focus around qualifying for TI and like doing well at TI shapes everything within that community. TI is the focus of Dota. You don't have an alternative to become successful in Dota at the moment. You don't become a Dota influencer, right? That's like when prize pool does matter, right? Where it gets to this like insane scale where one tournament fucking changes your life. You know, Smash could probably have like a $5 million tournament, and if you won it, it could probably change a lot of people's lives, right? And then maybe that one tournament with that one big enough amount of prize pool would be enough to like kind of build and like plan everything around. But that's not the case, right? And then we're going to go to other games to show that that's not normal. League of Legends is the biggest game in the world, biggest esports in the world by a lot. And the prize pool for winning worlds in League is like the whole prize pool for the whole event. Dude, what's it like $2.5 million, $3 million? It's pretty low. But Riot intentionally does this, right? It's like the Super Bowl. It's like the NBA Finals. It's winning worlds is not about winning the prize money, right? In League, all these regions have franchise leagues where you get onto a team, you get paid a really good salary, you get fucking taken care of, and you have all the things like in your life like paid for so that you can pursue playing professional League of Legends. The ecosystem is taking care of you, not as a winner of worlds, but as a professional player as a whole. That is like a more, holistic esport ecosystem probably, where like becoming a pro is enough to sustain yourself and not like getting first or second at every tournament you enter forever, which is not a sustainable way to like take care of yourself, because inevitably it will end. CSGO is like pretty similar, where CSGO doesn't have as much structure as League, and prize money, I think, probably does matter a little more. But at the end of the day, the teams invested in Tier 1 CS are paying their players a lot of money. Getting onto a T1 pro team in CSGO is a path to success. You do not have to be the winner of the major to be making a lot of money and sustaining your career. Basically, the idea is that the games are relying on the prestige of the tournaments to matter. And that you want an ecosystem where becoming a pro at a low level is what sustains you. So what does a successful esports player look like? You get good results, become a professional player by getting a team sponsor who supports you and pays you. You hopefully make content and become a personality of some kind while you exist as a pro and are on that team. And then afterwards, you get to retire and become an influencer. Even as a professional sports player, that is basically your ideal path for success success is like becoming an icon outside of the game or enough as an individual that when you stop playing the game, you continue to be successful. A really good example of this right now is Tarek. Tarek played CSGO, was a really good CSGO player, won the fucking major, let's go C9, is now one of the biggest Valorant streamers and makes probably way more money doing that than he ever did playing Counter-Strike as a pro player, even though he was making a good amount of money when he was on pro teams. What are like the problems after like discussing a lot of this? We want to support our players properly, and the conversation often revolves around making the prize pool higher because we think that's better for players. It's more like reflective of the reward of putting a lot of work in, and we want to keep our top players in the game, especially lower level pros who kind of sustain the scene in a way. A lot of the impact of the players who are like ranked 20 to 100 is often forgotten about because that's like the upcoming talent and the people competing in the ether that sort of sustain a lot of the competitive scene. I wanted to get to why raising entry fees does not work in Smash and the FGC, why it doesn't fix this problem. And we can start with HBox. The best players already make the most money. The people who are getting or securing the prizing at the biggest events already have all the resources and the support of the other aspects of the scene. HBox is a co-owner of Team Liquid. He gets a Team Liquid salary. He streams to a massive audience because he has a huge following. He makes way more money doing those things. So the difference between $800 and $1,200 or $800 and $1,600 means nothing to HBox. When it's such a marginal portion of your income, that difference doesn't change very much in your life. And that $800 is just going to go to him who already has a lot of money. It's not to say that people shouldn't be rewarded for good play, but I'm just stressing that point. One thing where like Knuckles was wrong is I don't think boosting the cost of brackets is necessarily a big deterrent to people already spending hundreds of dollars to enter an event. If somebody is paying $200 for their weekend at a major, $210 or $220 is not going to move the needle. But upping the bracket fee, like we've said, like isn't going to fix any of these problems really either. Where it does matter, if we talk about upping fees for like small tournaments, that's where it does matter, right? Because the money matters so much more in your decision to attend a tournament in that case. The local increasing from $10 to $20 is a big deal because I'm paying it over and over again. Maybe I have to take a lot of my time out of the day to drive there, and I could just stay at home and play Slippy. It's not matching the spectacle and experience of a major. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is Moxie, who's a great person, had a tweet about this, which is venue fees and bracket fees should be increased at major tournaments. If you can handle $200 plus hotels and flights, you can handle 10 to 20 more to support the livelihoods of the people that make the game as fun and exciting as it is. So not every player is in the same position, and that's important to keep in mind, and I don't necessarily agree with this sentiment. I don't think it means or harms a lot to increase the prize, like the bracket fee, by $10 so that the prize pool is a little bigger. I actually don't think that's a problem. We could just say fuck it and do it, but I think what's important is it doesn't actually change anything. We've already talked about like the first part of this, which is that the top players winning the majority of the money already get the most support from their sponsors and other like streams of income. The increase in prizing, like in HBox's example, right? Say it was $1,200 instead of $800, if it was $20 entry instead of $15 entry, like he's suggesting, that doesn't change anything for HBox. Like the payouts at the top are the majority of what we're paying into when we increase the entry fee. And I think the players that Moxie's like highlighting are probably not like MK Leo and Spargo, who have like really good sponsors and probably make a lot of money outside of their prizing. Talking about the lower level pros in that rank like 15 to 50 range, who do not have a great sponsor, who do not make a lot of money, and probably deserve to be paid more. And getting money through their performance and their in bracket is a way of them getting more money. But why isn't this very effective? When you talk about increasing the pool, let's say it's a jump from $10 to $20. We're talking about a jump from maybe they're getting $100 instead of $50. That doesn't pay for shit. That's a fraction of what they even pay to fly out and stay at the major that weekend. That's what doubling the pool does. It gets from that small amount to that next small amount. neither enough to sustain them, neither enough to make it a career. They still need to climb up the ranks, become a better player in the top 5, top 10, and that was doubling the prize pool. So what's the next thing? Should we triple the prize pool? Should we quadruple the prize pool? To say that $250 is going to be meaningful in keeping them around in Smash longer, in letting it be a full-time job for them, it's not realistic with living expenses in any sense, right? It doesn't match what an actual job or sponsorship would be in any sense. What do we want? If we're stuck on prize pools, if it had to be done through prize pools, we need to get to like a Dota level, right? Not literally dollar for dollar Dota level, but using Dota as an example, where prize pools are so overwhelmingly the majority of way that the average pro player can find their money in the scene, you have to consider that even if we get like enough sponsorship money to make that possible, say every event gets $100,000 sponsorship from whatever company, that fee is not obligated to all go to players, right? It's going to be split amongst staff, support, broadcast, and then deepening payouts in general, right? It gets split among so many people. That isn't a raw 100K that you're just going to send at players. There's a bunch of underpaid people participating in grassroots Smash event creation. That amount of sponsorship money needs to be so big that the person getting 25th winning money at top 32 at a major is still getting paid enough for that to matter. And I think like the closest we've gotten to this is Smash Summit 11 and Ultimate Summit 3, where 13th was getting like $2,500. What's like the actual solution then? Like what's a more realistic way of like getting money into the scene and like helping people? You need enough interest, viewership, and sales activations in the games that teams want to sponsor players for their skill or stream notoriety. Having a salary, having like basically a job with a team that provides them with benefits is what they need over trying to win prize money occasionally at every tournament they go to. And then in turn with the sponsors that they get, hopefully leverage like a following or stream or something like that for more brand and influencer opportunities so that when they retire, they like have something left after they leave all of this, right? How do we get there? You got to watch more. Viewership is like the core component of this. Watching more Smash streams, more tournament streams, getting your friends into it, encouraging people to fucking watch more in general. Obviously, it's not like an individual doesn't have the power to change this, right? And there's a bunch of things that the community could do, like community leadership could do to shift and increase viewership. I'm not like putting the blame on you guys, for example, but if you wanted to like help, right? You watching more fucking tournaments and watching tournaments between majors, like boosting viewership on the whole, is something that sways sponsors and teams into sponsoring Smash players. That's all really, really important. The whole ecosystem needs to shift. And then my final asterisk on like all of this is that even in like a huge game with all this support, with all this opportunity for pros, low-level pros will still struggle, especially in a 1v1 game, I think. And I think tennis is a good example where there's a lot of like lower-level pros who are basically playing paycheck to paycheck, even though they're fucking incredible in one of the most popular sports in the world. And that's because they have so many expenses associated with the sport they play. And we will probably struggle with that forever, no matter how good we get. And I think that's something to keep in mind. It's like that the problem always exists to some extent, but our low-level pros making like $50,000 a year or like even $30,000 a year, if you were like the 50th best player in the world, right? That's a really fucking great thing. That's an income that like could sustain you versus where we're at right now, where a lot of people don't make next to any money, are struggling to get money from tournaments they enter, which don't pay out very much. And like I said, doubling or tripling entry fees is not going to change that. Okay, so Brandon's making a good point. I think more than just telling us to watch for viewership, there has to be a way to make it more entertaining. So yeah, this is what I tried to say at the end of like the actual lecture, if you will, or the rant. Me asking you guys or telling you guys to just watch more is like not actually the solution, right? No single person by just like watching a bunch more is going to change this issue. More like holistic solutions need to be introduced by like community leaders and figures to raise viewership. And there's a bunch of different ways of doing that, right? The product could be like more entertaining and better put together. There could be like a structured circuit that keeps top players attending events on a frequent basis so that like narratives are easy to follow, stories are developed. Like think about how much momentum came out of Genesis, right? Viewership for Melee at Pound was amazing. And so was their viewership for Ultimate. their viewership was really fucking high compared to like an average event in like the past like 6 months, right? Because Genesis, a huge event that a lot of people remember, like tuned in, watched, realized why they love these games again, and then the viewership momentum carries on. And if you think about like 2014 or like 2015, when viewership was really, really high, right? We had a pretty like keystone major basically every couple weeks or every month. SSS, a local in SoCal, was hitting like 5,000 concurrent viewers over and over and over again. Obviously, these things are dependent on other trends that have to do with like attendance and interest in the game. But why was SSS like so crazy in that way? It's the same time, same day, like Sunday. SCL is probably the best example of this, where like week 1 of SCL had like okay, decent viewership, but then watch as the fixed time, the fixed day progresses as each SCL goes on. It's something to follow. It's something to tune into. It had like a structure that like was easy for like the average fan to latch onto, and they have something to look forward to watch next week. It wasn't even that like special of a tournament, right? It wasn't a major, but because it was week to week, had all the top faces participating in it, it had these like rising stars given opportunities. There's consistency to the broadcast with all of the top people and interesting narratives. Like there was a bunch of things to follow, and we've been in this space for a while now where like tournaments are really, really sparse, and TOs like don't coordinate super well about like their dates and how their tournaments like flow together, which isn't necessarily like their fault. I think it's like really hard to do that because like in this grassroots space where you're just fighting to like make your event happen, it's really tough. But all of those things, like if we had like a Genesis-esque major every, like say we had a super major every 4 months, or sorry, every 3 months, and then like a smaller major every month in between, and that was like and then with like some sort of reoccurring like smaller events in each region that were scheduled on the same channel and happened every week, like there would be things to follow, progression and storylines to keep up with, and that's like what keeps people invested.